Hi, here we are with the second episode of Decode Issues Unfolded. Ever since Trump came onto the world stage, there's been an unwavered focus on China's growth and its attempt at global dominance. And we all have had a question in our minds, don't we? Will China break US hegemony? Or rather, when will and how will China break US hegemony? That's a more appropriate question to ask. There's no doubt that Chinese have the ambition to become the global superpower, but do they have the grand strategy to achieve it? In fact, if we look at the past, it tells us how China grew while the whole world slept. From 1979, when then Chinese Premier Deng Xiaoping opened its economy, to 2018, Chinese GDP has seen a phenomenal growth rate averaging over 10% per annum. And well, right now, Chinese economy is well poised to overtake US economy by somewhere between 2025 and 2030. But does this mean that by 2025 China will become the economic superpower? Well, the answer is no. Why do I say that? The real power of US economy is in its dollar hegemony, and unless that is removed, China can never become the economic superpower. But right now, China is strategizing to break it. And in this episode, we are going to look at how is China planning to take on the dollar and how is China planning to become the economic superpower. And for that, we'll have to first understand how did US dollar become the supreme currency. Let me take you way back to 1944. Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, US. And this is where it all began. 44 allied countries after the World War II came together and decided that the world's currencies now would be linked to the US dollar, which in turn is linked to the gold. Thus, the dollar was officially crowned as the world's reserve currency. Well, it was going fine, but in 1960s, as the US started printing more paper dollars than its gold reserves due to the deficit financing needed for the Vietnam War, the confidence in the dollar started plummeting. And that's when the dollar started destabilizing, and Richard Nixon took two important decisions which sealed the future in favor of dollar and the US supremacy. Richard Nixon, the then US president, in 1970s broke the Bretton Woods Agreement and delinked the dollar from the gold. Well, this resulted in a global economic chaos and a free fall of the dollar. In order to stabilize the dollar, his second decision was the clincher, the Petrodollar Pact. In this, the US brought out a system wherein the entire global oil supply would be traded in dollars. In return, it told Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab countries that US will ensure their protection. Well, with this system coming into effect, it elevated the US dollar to the world's reserve currency, and from then on, it ensured US's global economic hegemony. Right now, over 90% of international transactions happen in dollars, and over 60% of the world's foreign exchange reserves are in dollars. This is a mammoth level of dollar supremacy. So how is China even planning on countering this? As you would guess, China, like always, plays the long game. From 2000 to 2010, China had become the world's factory, and it had eclipsed US in terms of global manufacturing and global exports. But it was unsuccessful with all its efforts in replacing the dollar with Yuan in its trade. So in 2013, China unveils its grand plan called the Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI, under which right now it's implementing close to $1 trillion worth of projects across almost 65% of the countries in the world. Well, this is a grand plan indeed. And then in 2016, a significant event happens. The Chinese yuan gets added as one other currency in the IMF reserve basket, by which it means that countries across the world which face financial troubles can now borrow from the IMF in Chinese yuan also. So just consider a case where these countries have a debt with China, and right now in order to pay that they borrow from IMF. They can now borrow in Chinese yuan instead of the dollars and pay back the Chinese. Then in 2018, China decides to use its dominance as the world's largest crude oil importer in its favor. And then it introduces the concept of Petro Yuan. It would be wise to remember now the concept of petrodollar, which was introduced by US and which ensured that the US became the economic hegemony. China plans a similar concept where it has gone on a signing spree with Russia, Iran, Angola and Venezuela in order to buy oil from them in return for yuan. Initially the West Asian countries like Saudi Arabia were little wavering, but they indeed joined the petro-yuan fold in a year or so. But the latest project of China is something that will eclipse all these strategies and form the bedrock for China to take on the dollar. While the entire world has been focused on battling the coronavirus, 4 Chinese cities have been witnessing a silent pilot project which could potentially disrupt the world's financial system in the near future. This latest project is the digital yuan. And China has been involved in this project since 2014, and right now it is the first sovereign country in the world to release this digital currency. So what is digital yuan? Digital yuan is a central bank digital currency. So the next question arises, so how is this different from our normal currency which we use in our digital transactions through say net banking, Google Pay, etc. So the basic difference is that a digital currency exists only in the digital form. There is no physical form for it. Whereas our normal currency exists in both cash and in our digital money. So it can be exchanged. But the difference just doesn't stop there. In a central bank digital currency, unlike our normal financial system where we have accounts with the financial intermediaries, that is the banks, say I have an account with HDFC, but this is not the case with the CBDC or a central bank digital currency. Here in the CBDC system, my account will be with the central bank directly. That is, say in the Indian case, my account will be directly with the RBI. So that is the basic difference and the significance of the CBDC. So how is digital yuan significant in taking on the dollar, and how could this potentially disrupt the dollar hegemony? To understand this, first we need to look at a few aspects of the current international financial system. The present system is dominated by US and its financial firms, and they earn a huge chunk through commissions in international dollar transactions. As we saw earlier, 90% of international transactions happen in dollars, and these firms charge anywhere from 2.5 to 10% on these transactions. Also, any dollar-based exchange will have to be routed through the US firms present in the US territory during their settlement cycle. And it's not just that. Presently, any exchange involves too many financial intermediaries, which results in unimaginable cost and time delays. But with the oncoming of CBDC and in specific digital yuan, these earnings could potentially be threatened. It's projected that the CBDC could reduce the need for intermediaries by almost 50% by ensuring a 24-hour highly liquid transaction guaranteed directly by the central bank of that currency. But for this to succeed, China needs to internationalize the usage of digital yuan. And this is where the other projects of China come in. China is already the largest manufacturer and seller of goods, the largest buyer of oil and the largest investor through Belt and Road Initiative. The only aspect missing in its wheel is being the largest innovator, which it also aims to become by 2025 through the project Made in China by 2025. Once that's done, it's quite inevitable that the global balance will tilt in favor of China. Then it would be just a matter of few years for China to pull the countries in favor of digital yuan. Now, the question is it all that easy for China to achieve? Well, not at all. China's growth is in fact been struggling. It was 14.2% in 2010, but it was just 6% in 2019, and it's expected to decrease further. Not just that, yuan even right now makes up only 2% of international transactions compared to 90% of dollar. Beyond all these, for yuan to be the reserve currency, the world of business and investment needs to trust yuan and China, which is the most difficult with the current closed capital market of China. So unless China ensures a free capital and information flow, it's going to be an uphill task for China. So we'll have to wait and watch how China proceeds on this front. Now let me place my final thoughts on, will China be able to break US hegemony? Despite all the criticisms and challenges, China has been growing, and that's a fact. Trade wars and the protectionist measures, while they have slowed China's march, they haven't been able to scuttle its growth. It's high time that the world and India focus on countering China's future strategies with long-term planning and investment, else it looks imminent that the dragon will start spewing fire. While the dollar hasn't been any good for the world, a known dollar is always and indeed better than an unknown dragon. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please do share and follow for more interesting topics. We'll meet you in the next episode. Until then, it's your CV.